Hi everyone, this is Mindy and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I created this faux watercolor look without any watercolor. I'm going to be doing ink blending today to create this look, and this does require a specialized stencil, but I think this stencil is extremely versatile. I've already used it on a couple projects, and I can link those videos down below in the video description. Today, I am pairing this watercolor background with a cupcake for a fun and festive birthday card. This happens to be a stencil from Pretty Pink Posh, which right now they are having a stencil theme week if you are watching this video in current time, and they have 15% off of their stencils in the stencil category. So that is for a limited time only. If you're looking to pick up any of their many layering stencils that are great for backgrounds, now is the time to do it. So here is a look at that watercolor stencil. It's actually called Watercolor Oval. They do have one that's in a rectangle shape, and you're actually getting two stencils. You have the main stencil, which is with the middle out, so it's going to give the watercolor edge, or you get the mask, which means that you would have the watercolor edge, but the outside would be the colored portion. I'm going to be using a piece of Hammermill cardstock cut to 4¼ by 5½, and I just temporarily adhered that to my work surface using repositionable tape. And then I placed that watercolor oval stencil over the front of my card project, and I'm holding that down with some low tack tape. I'm going to ink blend the center of this using the pink lemonade ink from Concord at Ninth and a blending brush. I'm going to be using just the one color for my background, but this would look amazing with two or three different colors, even a rainbow background. And it can go for floral images or birthday cake or even just having a sentiment in the center. So this is where I think it is a very versatile stencil. Before I remove my stencil, I am going to add splatters, and I wanted something fairly light but yet sparkly. And I'm bringing out my Distress Spritz to do that. I have antique linen here first. You want to make sure you shake up those bottles really well to mix that mica up in the bottle. And then I'm picking it up with a paintbrush and adding splatters to that area. I'm also going to bring in Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm just kind of blocking my hand there at the top because my keyboard's up there and I didn't want to get any splatters on my keyboard. So I'm going to remove the stencil and set that off to dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to dig out my pieces that I already pre-cut. So I have a cupcake here from the big Valentine Cupcake Die set. And then I have the word celebrate, which I die cut multiple times out of white cardstock and a Dazzling diamond cardstock. Since my background does have shading to it, I want to add a little bit of shading to the top of the cupcake. Now, the cupcake I actually die cut kind of out of an ivory colored cardstock, and I am grabbing one of my blending brushes that has kind of an ivory or even a really light tan shade already on it, and just adding a hint of color to the edges. Same thing with my cupcake wrapper. It's out of a light teal cardstock, so I grabbed a brush that already had teal ink on it, and I'm just trying to use up whatever leftover ink I have on the brushes. I can start creating my cupcake, so I started by adding the wrapper onto my cupcake base, which I made tan because that's what I would probably have. I added the topping for my cupcake, so it's going to sit on top of the cupcake portion, but just slightly tucked into the wrapper. I have some decorations or some sprinkles that I'm adding. And like I said, this was the big Valentine cupcake, but Pretty Pink Posh has numerous variations of cupcakes. There's one with bows, one for Christmas and Halloween, and it's fun to kind of dig through those to see what other elements I could have added to the cupcake, but I was fine with just these little cute hearts and circles that I added for sprinkles. I also have a topper for my cupcake that I can tuck into the slit, and I'm going to just tape that on the back. I'm going to pop it up a little bit so it's not sticking too far up, secure that on the back, and then I could add my little flag. Of course, I could have stamped a sentiment on there, but I just thought it was really cute with the flag there. Now I have the word celebrate. So I die cut the main word three times out of a heavyweight white cardstock, and I'm going to glue those together using my liquid glue. And then the main one that's going to go on top is die cut from a Dazzling diamond cardstock. I also have the shadow layer, which I love how close that it cuts to it. So it's not taking up a ton of space. While all of that is kind of setting in place, I am going to create my card base, which is a side folding card base. This is for an A2 size card front. I added a tape runner to the top of my card base and then placed my watercolor background on the top. Now, I could have just left it be a celebrate on the front of my card, but I really wanted to have kind of a small sentiment strip. So I'm bringing in a small sentiment from the Party Time stamp set. I have some black cardstock that I conditioned with an anti-static powder tool. And then I'm inking up my sentiment with the Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink. I'll stamp that down multiple times, sprinkle on the white embossing powder, tapping off any excess, and then I can heat set that with my heat tool. Pretty Pink Posh also carries a sentiment strip type of die that I could have used to trim this out, but I wanted it pretty thin, so I just used my mini paper trimmer to trim that down. I also trimmed out a couple extra thin strips of black cardstock, and I'm going to use that to layer that behind my sentiment to help build that dimension. Now that I have all of my components ready for my card, I can start putting everything together. I am going to add foam tape behind my cupcake and place that on the front, and I'm going to try and keep it fairly centered. That's why I kept my flag kind of tucked in quite a ways, is I didn't want that to be too high up from the cupcake. Then I can add the word celebrate. I added some foam tape to each end and then the liquid glue in the center since that's going to overlap my cupcake. And then I can also add a liquid glue behind my small skinny sentiment and kind of just tuck that right up in between. And one last finishing touch that I wanted to do is a few more sparkles, which is the Stardust Stickles that I'm adding to my sprinkles. And that is the finished card project with that watercolor oval stencil. But also check out the Pretty Pink Posh website because they have a watercolor rectangle stencil as well. Both of them I feel that you could use with pretty much any theme and any card project. And don't forget about the sale that's happening right now on the Pretty Pink Posh website, which is 15% off in the stencil category, and that is for a limited time. I hope you all enjoyed today's inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to have all of my supplies linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. I'll see you soon.